Have you ever felt that your cat is trying to dominate you or another cat in your home? Well, good news. Dominance, at least in the way that we think of it, isn't a thing in cat social structure. Anyone who tries to tell you a cat is doing something to be dominant is full of more than a litter box. We're covering the origin of dominance theory and the idea of the alpha in dogs or wolves, how it gets applied to cats, what cat social structure is actually like, alternative explanations for dominant behavior, and a potentially controversial take on why this myth exists. It's not simply ignorance of cat behavior. First, where did this absolutely silly idea come from? We have to look at the dog behavior world for an answer. Back in the mid-1900s, there were studies done on the social hierarchy of wolves, not even domestic dogs, wolves, that appeared to show that the wolves would maul their way to dominating other wolves to keep their spot as the top wolf and have priority access to food, sexy lady wolves, and probably the latest iPhone model. I don't know, I wasn't there. The alpha wolf was considered the top wolf who kept others in check, and dominance theory was born. Because we're here to talk about cats, I'm not delving into all of the problems with these studies, but briefly, because there were a lot of them. The wolves were really heckin' stressed. This wasn't like happy wolves living their best lives in the forests and existing as they did in nature. These wolves were not having a good time, so of course they felt the need to compete for resources. There weren't a lot of them. The wolves felt like if they didn't get all of the resources, they would die. These studies unfortunately seeped their way into the dog training world, and dumb ideas like forcing your dog to see you as their pack leader by quite honestly being a raging to them, or doing silly things like an alpha roll came to be.
If you aren't familiar with an alpha roll, I'm going to demonstrate it with this here body pillow. So basically what you do is you take your dog or cat or body pillow and you force it to roll its belly over and just let it know that you're in charge, you teeny tiny 10-pound cat. Now imagine how stupid you look doing that to a Bichon or a Maltese or a cat.
No one who actually understands dog behavior recommends doing an alpha roll these days. I mean, really, imagine needing to dominate a Maltese. They're like tiny little stuffed animals like this stuffed cat I have right here. They're just about as threatening as this cat. Unfortunately for our feline companions, the idea of dominance leached over into the popular ethos when it comes to cat behavior. Part of this may stem from the incorrect perception that cats are not social animals that don't really like us, so they're just trying to control us. I often hear people describe their cats as one is the alpha, one is the dominant one is more submissive, which quite honestly tells me nothing about the cat. A few years back, I turned away a prospective client who wrote in an email inquiry that they were looking for help with dominance and did not provide any specific information past that, besides that the cat was trying to dominate them by engaging in the very sinister behavior of laying on their chest and purring. Why this is problematic is, first, a cat laying on you and purring is a delightful, affectionate behavior. I love when my cats come and lay on my chest and purr. Second, cat social structure doesn't involve a pack or an alpha. Cats are flexibly social, so they can live solo lives. But if there are plenty of resources, they can form groups and get along with other cats. These groups are typically led by females that are related to each other. It can be a very Sabrina the Teenage Witch arrangement. Males will wander in and out of groups and are more free-spirited than females. You see this a lot in studies involving GPS trackers on free-roaming cats. Females will stay in a smaller area close to their core territory, and males will have a greatly expanded territory. This is a bit of an oversimplification, but hopefully you get the general idea. Of note is that male cats will sometimes get in spats with other male cats, but even then, you'll still see them engaging in pro-social affiliative behavior, a fancy way of saying friendly behaviors, with other male cats. Basically, cats don't form social groups in a hierarchical pattern. Actually, cats in homes will usually have different relationships with each cat in the group, not an overarching social structure. They may also form mini social groups that may overlap with each other. Honestly, it can be kind of like the real house kitties of your living room, trying to figure out exactly the dynamics. But relating it back to the main point of the video is that there isn't a clear alpha in a cat social structure. If resources are slim, you might see what could appear to be a dominance relationship appear as soon as you make sure that the cats have enough food, places to rest, and so forth. The cat that appears to be dominant will just kinda not care as much. Cats may also appear to switch roles or appear to be higher up on the hierarchy at certain times than others, but it's more fluid, and again, there really isn't a constant alpha cat. I will absolutely acknowledge that cats can do a lot of behaviors that look like they may be trying to dominate another cat or you, but there's another explanation. We also still need to get to the controversial reason that you may be thinking your cat is trying to dominate you at the end, so hang tight for that one. In some cases, dominance-like behaviors may appear because of personality dynamics between the supposedly dominant cat and other cats in the home. A cat may prefer not starting a fight, so they just avoid conflict rather than asserting a boundary with the other cat. That can look submissive, but it's just the cat trying to avoid conflict. In many situations, the issue ultimately comes back to a common culprit in cat behavior: stress. This could be territory-related stress, or the cat might be sick, so they're trying to be left alone. They may not have a need of theirs being met. Unfortunately, as evidenced by the client inquiry I mentioned earlier, even some behaviors such as the cat trying to get close to you or showing affection can be misinterpreted as an attempt at dominance. Let's take hissing as an example of a behavior that people may misinterpret as being dominant. I hear people incorrectly say a cat hissing is them trying to dominate you, and no, the cat is being defensive. They're saying, hey, you're making me uncomfortable and you should back off. Hissing is actually an attempt at de-escalation. It's not an attempt to try and be higher up on you than some artificial and non-existent social hierarchy. It's an attempt to try and tell you to go the heck away. The cat is scared or stressed. In multi-cat homes, a huge cause of cat fights and an apparent attempt at dominance is related to not having enough resources or having resources incorrectly placed. It may be a cat guarding all the litter boxes because they're all in the basement behind a cat door and they feel their only option of where to pee is threatened, which is part of why you should not do that. It may be that you're feeding your cats 2 larger meals morning and night rather than multiple smaller meals throughout the day, leading to the cats being hungry, so they feel that the other cat is a threat to their food supply. Honestly, that's a pretty reasonable reaction because the cat worries they may not have access to something that's vital to them continuing to live. Of course, people sometimes feel their cat is trying to dominate them, the human. In some cases, it may be a totally benign behavior, or it could be something like a cat biting them. Regardless of the reason, they're all wrong. Your cat isn't trying to dominate you, but are you trying to dominate your cat? Honestly, if there's any attempt at a power struggle here, it comes from us. Look at how many people treat their cats like they're a vase rather than a living creature with needs, emotions, and preferences. People spray their cat when they're doing a totally normal and expected behavior like scratching, or they try and pick out litters, litter boxes, and other cat products that don't meet the needs of the cat and prioritize the needs of the humans. Or, I should say, prioritize the wants of the humans. Humans spend a lot of time trying to control their cats. Oftentimes, a reason people give for not liking cats is that they don't listen to them or obey them like dogs do. In other words, they don't like cats because they're behaving like cats, and they really want them to behave differently. Many people will refuse to even refer to their homes where their cats live as being their cats' territory. People will say things like, I don't want my cat thinking that he owns the place. It's mine. Listen, sit down, we need to talk about this. Your cat lives there. Like it or not, it's their territory too. It is their territory. And honestly, if you are so threatened by a 10-pound ball of fur feeling like they have a sense of ownership over the space that they live in, I invite you to do some self-reflection on if you may need to do some internal work on yourself and why you feel that way. It sounds kind of like you've got some stuff going on that you need to work through. Ultimately, why all of this matters is that it causes problems for both cats and humans. If you try to explain your cat's behavior towards another cat in the home as being dominant, you're not actually going to figure out what the problem is. If you try to do really I mean, honestly, just incredibly stupid interventions like an alpha roll, you're only going to make your cat more stressed, more afraid, and not solve the underlying problem. Cat social structure doesn't involve a rigid pecking order, and if anyone suggests otherwise, they're getting their behavior information from the 1970s and basing it on an entirely different species. Actually, they're not even basing it on dog behavior studies in a lot of cases. They're basing it on behavior studies done in wolves. It gets even worse the more you think about it. So please, stop saying that your cat is dominant or submissive. Think a little bit deeper. It will help you figure out what's actually bothering you about your cat's behavior and what to do about it. Thought I heard Prozac trying to dominate me somewhere behind me. Now, if you'll excuse me, I need to go put a shock collar on my body pillow because I need to really heckin' dominate it. Dominance, dominance, dominance.
I'm the alpha body pillow. I'm the alpha.